Thank you to the sponsor for this video, Keen. Visit trykeen.com/Nadiya to get your first 10 minutes for only $1.99 with one of their trusted advisors. I too had a chance to try Keen when I was approached to have them as a sponsor. I loved my reading, and I only recommend services I trust. Visit trykeen.com/Nadiya to get your first 10 minutes for only $1.99. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of March 27th, 2022. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. And it is an important week, especially in the context of this shift of energy that chances are you and all of us are already feeling. It's a buildup of energy in Aries that is beginning now, that is going to be notable in key ways. Right out of the gate, as we begin the week, we will have on Sunday, Mercury moving into the sign of Aries. Now, wherever Mercury goes, so go our thoughts and the things we're talking about, but also the way in which we are speaking as well. Well, the energy of Aries has a spectrum, right? Just like any sign out there, there is always a spectrum of expression. And so on the lower end of expression, we get an energy that can be impulsive and an adrenaline addict, sort of addicted to the adrenaline rush. And that can have the energy participating in risky behaviors. And that includes risky behaviors with Mercury in terms of how it is that we are speaking to each other. Speaking in ways that can be forceful. And that is something we are going to be mindful of, but I don't think that that is the likely expression because of the journey that Mercury is going to take this week. The higher expression of Aries energy is the spiritual warrior, is someone with a sense of conviction in themselves, in their own instincts, in their own specialness. Now remember, everybody has all signs as part of them. It doesn't matter whether or not you have planets in Aries, though, of course, if you do have any planets in Aries in your birth chart, that energy is going to be part of your life learning. But as I've explained before, if you look at your chart, and I will try to remember to put a celebrity chart up here. Last week, I forgot to put Tiffany Haddish's chart up, but I shared that in a YouTube post. So I hope that you guys had a chance to look at that. So I'll try to put her chart up this time. Last week, I told a story about her. So I'm going to invite you to look at this celebrity example, but also consider it in the context of your own chart. If you get a chance to look at your own birth chart, you'll notice that one of the houses, the cusp of that house, falls in the sign of Aries. And that is going to represent an area of life where you will be invited to either bring an energy that is instinctual and impulsive. Perhaps some might even see you in that area of life as aggressive, or to bring an energy of being a spiritual warrior to that area of life, trusting yourself, trusting what it is that was fun for you to do as a child. What were those first things that lit you up when you were very young? Well, chances are you can bring that energy to that area of life. Now, that area of life is going to depend on your birth chart, but of course, in relation to your sun sign as well, in relation to your rising sign as well. And so, having said that, here we have some remarkable energies playing out. We have the opportunity here to make the distinction. And that is the great gift of a week like this. As we navigate forward, it is going to be the end of the week that has the most important energies now. Aries new moon takes place on Friday. But it's the fact that we are going to have Mercury and Chiron hand in hand with that new moon. The fact that over the course of Friday and Saturday, Mercury will move over with precision the Sun and Chiron, this conglomerate of energy here, fully 4 placements in the sign of Aries. Well, chances are very quickly, all of us in at least one area of life are going to be invited to own the spiritual warrior within. Now, Chiron is an energy that I am especially fascinated by, and I think that this is going to be an energy that comes into focus for all of us as a collective and individually as well. One of the key characteristics of this new moon in the sign of Aries is that it is hand in hand with precision, with Mercury, and with Chiron. Mercury, as I mentioned before, it's what we're thinking about, it's what we're talking about, it's how we are talking to each other. Now, you add the element of Chiron. Chiron, the asteroid, represents where it is that we might feel vulnerable or exposed. It's also where it is that we come to understand that we have to give attention to that area of life. On some very deep level, perhaps we can understand it as a very deep karmic level. We know that that's where healing is. And so that's the direction we're going to go in. Now, here's something else interesting to consider about Chiron, especially in the context of this week with this conglomerate, this jacked up Aries energy that we are going to have. When Chiron orbits the sun, and from our perception, when we look at the orbit of Chiron, Chiron doesn't travel with precision the way that, for example, the sun does. So with the sun, we know, give or take a day, give or take whether or not it's a leap year, the sun is going to spend 30 days per sign per year, right? It is literally like clockwork. It is astrology and astronomy that were the very first clocks and the very first ways in which humanity told time. And so the sun has a certain predictability to it. And even though, of course, we can observe larger cycles, and that's how we as astrologers and astronomers know where planets are, where they're going to be, with precision, because we're able to observe larger cycles. With Chiron, the orbit of Chiron isn't a perfect circle around us the way that the sun is, for example. Of course, that's from our perspective. Chiron operates more like an oval. And what that means is Chiron is going to spend more time in some signs than he might in others. For example, normally Chiron will spend as little as 3 or 4 years in certain signs like Virgo, like Leo, and can spend as much as 8 years in another sign, for example, Aries. In fact, Aries is one of the signs that Chiron, as part of its orbit, all the time, right? Cycle after cycle, spends 50 years going around the sun, going around the zodiac, will always spend an extended amount of time in the sign of Aries. And what that means is more people are born with Chiron in the sign of Aries than would be born with Chiron in the sign of Leo or Virgo, for example. And so I mentioned this because I was contemplating this energy. And I was contemplating how this extended amount of time that the planet that represents healing and overcoming vulnerabilities, being willing to look at our own insecurities and to recognize where our work is. And if we're not willing to take on that journey consciously, life is going to put us in situations again and again where we are asked to do those things that may feel challenging, that may feel difficult, but on some level we know, on some spiritual level, some unconscious level, we may know our healing is there. Well, this symbol, Chiron, spends an unusually long time in the energy of Aries as part of its larger orbit. And I think that is a remarkable symbol for taking ownership for one's own healing. Taking ownership for what it is that we feel vulnerable about. One of the spiritual lessons that has struck me as of late, and those of you who watch me know I like to travel. I have a Sag moon, and right now I'm in Peru. You might hear the streets of Cusco lit up right about now outside as I'm speaking to you. And one of the things that does strike me, one of the spiritual lessons that's come up for me as of late, and it is travel for me personally that awakens spiritual realization for me. Again, I have a Sag moon. For you, I would say, where is your moon sign, right? This is where it's very helpful to know your time of birth to generate a birth chart using a platform, for example, like astro.com, a very popular professional platform that a lot of astrologers like to use, very reputable platform at that. And there are others out there as well. But you can enter in your date, time, and place of birth, and you can find out what your moon sign is. Wherever your moon sign is, acting like the characteristics of that sign is your pathway to emotional equilibrium. And emotional equilibrium is the definition of peace. It is the definition of peace. And when we have important lunar activity, like for example, the new moon in Aries that's going to happen this week, well, chances are, as a collective, more and more of us are going to find peace through self-realization, through self-reliance, through channeling our will and taking ownership for what we want, what our instincts are telling us, and acting from that place. I do think that the art and spiritual practice of not taking things personally, it is a skill, and it is a skill that can be cultivated. It is something that we can learn, and it is one of the great spiritual lessons that once we learn magnifies peace in our lives. But there's another layer to the understanding of what's going to be playing out for us right now as well. Whatever may arise that has us feeling vulnerable, and especially feeling cautious or uncertain about asserting our own brilliance, asserting our own power, being a spiritual warrior in our own life. And I'll define that in just a moment. But I do feel like a part of whatever may stir for us now is an invitation to consider that what is healthy faith to us? What does it mean to trust the universe? Well, to trust the universe means that whatever happens, you are going to trust that it is for your higher good, even if it isn't apparent right away. That doesn't mean that you don't own your power, you don't take action on your own behalf. Of course, you should do all of that. And I think that that is going to be part of what a lot of us are inspired to do. But there does come a point when you do what you can and you must surrender the rest. There is only a limit to how much it is we can do. And so when we do all there is that we can do, it is a very powerful thing to then surrender the rest to the universe and say, okay, whatever may happen, it is going to be for my highest good. That is faith that you can use. That is faith that is practical. That is faith that can be implemented immediately. That is demonstrated and strengthened the more it is that you practice it. Peace is a skill. Spirituality and the peace that comes through trusting divine will, but also owning your own power, your own will, and that balance, it is a skill. And it is likely going to be under the light of this new moon and all of this very powerful energy that all of us are going to be invited to practice this skill in some way to our advantage, to our strengthening. Now, I mentioned spiritual warrior. This is a concept that is explored in, I think, just about every spiritual tradition I've come across in one way or another. And it is often interpreted in different ways. I mean, when you look at sacred texts, the language can be so powerful, but also so open to interpretation that really, I do think that whoever you are, that's what you're going to meet when you look at sacred texts. And that's who you're going to meet when you contemplate the sky. It was Plato and Timaeus who said, we contemplate the sky to cultivate wisdom. But what wisdom looks like, well, a lot of that depends on what you're bringing to the table. A lot of that depends on the interpretation of what ultimately is a mirror, whether you're looking at planets or you're looking at and reading a sacred text. And so many spiritual traditions talk about this idea of a spiritual warrior. And essentially what it is to make the distinction between the false self and the authentic self. And this is a concept that I've been talking about with you lately because it is so connected to the energy of Aries. This idea of understanding that there is you, yes, and there's healthy ego, and that healthy ego will invite you to make sure that you get up every day, that you bathe, right? That you take some basic care of you. That's healthy ego. But then needing to prove something, needing to prove your worth, that's when we get caught up in false forms of ego. And that is a very real part of the human experience. Needing external validation, right? That reaches a very deep part of our psyche. The very deep part of our psyche that is affected by wanting that validation, well, a part of that is just survival. Up until very recently in human history, you needed others in order to survive. It was not the case that you could live necessarily isolated. That was a way to make yourself very vulnerable, much more vulnerable than if you were aligned with others, if you had the approval and acceptance of others, perhaps a tribe, perhaps a community. Together, people understood that they were stronger. And so this need for validation can reach that very deep part, that very primal part of our conditioning, of our psyche. And of course, there are more modern layers to that as well. Needing to prove worthiness, needing to assert one's validity. These are all false forms of ego, because the fact that you're here means that you're worthy. You exist. And it means, the fact that you exist means that you are an expression of the divine, and therefore you are an expression of love, meaning that you are love embodied in physical form. And being able to recognize that inherent core of divine expression and working through, fighting through the false ego so that you live more in a space of honoring and acknowledging that core divine expression, divine light that you are. That is the work of a spiritual warrior. And that is the work that the energy of Aries awakens in all of us. Your pathway to what is going to help you and where it is that you're going to come to understand your power as a spiritual warrior. Well, again, going back to your chart, going back to your sun sign, that is going to show you something about what area of life you're invited to bring the energy of a spiritual warrior. You're invited to overcome false forms of ego, and you're invited to fight through false forms of ego so that you can rest in peace in your own brilliance and in your own authentic power. Okay, so if all of this wasn't enough, I've talked quite a bit about the new moon, new moons, new beginnings, new awakenings, new opportunities. It's very simple. With Aries energy, owning our power to embrace the new and the next is part of what is going to awaken for us now. But if all of this wasn't enough, we've got another very important energy playing out right now that I think is going to be a turning point for all of us out there, especially in the context of love. And that is the annual meeting of Venus and Saturn. And this meeting is going to take place this week on Monday. And whenever Venus meets Saturn in the sky, as they do about once a year, it is always a turning point. Always. It's a moment of truth. It is a reality check. It is looking at the sacrifices we've made and being honest with ourselves about whether or not those sacrifices are worth it. And this moment of truth, this moment of realization can be a profound thing. And it can leave us feeling changed, and it certainly can change our direction moving forward from here. And so for the overwhelming majority of people out there, regardless of sign, Venus meeting Saturn, this is going to show up in the context of love. Reality check, moment of truth, turning point in the context of love. For some people, this can also show up in the context of self-love, self-value. It can also show up in the context of having a depth of understanding as to what you value, what prosperity is going to mean to you, what is your unique definition of prosperity. And where have you bought into false notions of prosperity that don't work for you? And for others, this is going to be taking steps to align with, to solidify forms of prosperity that matter to you. But again, for the overwhelming majority of people, chances are love is going to come very much into focus. This is energy that very likely you've been feeling building since last week, more and more last week as we head towards the last days of last week and at the very beginning of this week. Once the conjunction is exact on Monday, that is the turning point moment. That is when things start to feel like they go in new directions. That is when it can start to feel as if we are having an understanding now. We know where we stand. We're able to take honest stock of where we've been. Now, whether that's in the larger perspective of love or whether that's in the context of a specific situation. But this is decision time. This is turning point. This is acknowledging what worked and what is no longer going to work. And where it is that perhaps we sacrifice too much, that just isn't going to work for us anymore. And so again, this could relate to your understanding of your entire life journey in love. Being honest with yourself about where perhaps you accepted less than you deserved. Remember, Saturn always has to do with self-respect in some way. Where was a lack of self-respect fueling certain choices, certain decisions that just don't work for you anymore? That just are not part of healthy self-love. And has brought you to this moment today of choice, of decision, of knowing that you deserve better going forward from here. And where is it in a current situation that perhaps you've accepted less than you deserve? And is you working towards something of greater stability with this person? Is it worth it? Being honest about that. But for others still, it may not necessarily be this dire, right? It may not necessarily feel like we're mourning the past, for example. That's one expression. But another expression is solidifying the bond. Another expression is a deepening of commitment, having a realization that this is it for you, and feeling the strength and stability of a love that feels mutually empowering and mutually respectful. It is Venus meeting Saturn in the sky that serves as a turning point, meaning that once you know, once you realize, once you accept, you can't go back. It's just not possible. Once you know, once you realize, once you accept, some choice, some decision, some change must occur because life is in constant flux. Life asks us to continually grow, to continually become more conscious, because if we're not doing that, if we're stagnating, if we're choosing to plateau, stagnation is regression. And it's just not possible, especially with Saturn involved. The consequences are too high. The pain of being in an alliance that compromises our self-respect, well, that's too high a price to pay, especially under this aspect. There are times with certain aspects that we can sort of tell ourselves certain things, we sort of go along for the ride, right? But there are times when, once we see the stark truth of the situation, the choice is already made. The awareness brings with it what it is we know we have to do. I promised you I'd talk about the Matrix 4. I promised you I'd talk about that ever since it launched, right? Just before 2021 ended. And I've seen it so many times since then. I absolutely love that movie. And it's interesting because every Matrix movie has its own philosophical assertion that it makes. Of course, the first one was a massive phenomenon. It changed the lives of many, many people, myself included. Up until the time that I saw the first Matrix, I was kind of floundering I was having a lot of fun, bit of a party girl, a lot of a party girl, I gotta say. And then I saw that movie and something just opened in my mind. I just felt like there are different ways to understand the world, and I haven't even begun. And my entire life changed after watching that first movie in so many ways. And so a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people. Perhaps people feel that way about the second and the third and the fourth. For me, it happens in layers, right? Now, with this fourth philosophical assertion that this movie makes, is this idea that choice could be an illusion. Because by the time we come to appreciate, by the time we get to the point where a choice has to be made, we already know what it is that we either want to do or what it is that we have to do. That some of the most consequential moments in our life, it isn't even a matter of choice. The fact that it looks like a choice is an illusion. On a soul level, we know what it is that we must do. And before we even do it, we know that it's almost like it's already occurred. And so chances are, as we are starting this week, an awareness of not only the choice that is before us, but also the awareness of where a choice has already been made, where it is that we know what it is that we must do. Well, all of that very likely is building within all of us now, leading to a consequential sense of awareness, where it comes to love, where it comes perhaps to money, where it comes to self-love, certainly, where it comes to what we value, where it comes to our definition of prosperity. What I can say is that you are worthy of great love. You are worthy of respect. You are worthy of honor. And I think that this is something with all this Aries energy, all of us are going to come to understand in our own unique way. It's like we're connecting with the truth of this in our own unique way. And as we are connecting to the truth of what it is that we know to be true about our worth, the decision, it's like it's already made. It can't help now but to come into our awareness. What I love about this week for us, well, there is a very powerful week ahead. It is a week of truth. It is a week of self-empowerment, self-knowledge. It is a week of acting with integrity in alignment with what we know to be true about ourselves. And it is a week of owning and moving through our vulnerabilities so that we are empowered, authentically empowered to be our most authentic selves. What does it mean to be your most authentic self? It means to be you, outside of the fears and the uncertainties and the questioning of the ego, the false self. It is about connecting with that core understanding that you, as you are an expression of the divine. No matter what may make you feel vulnerable and what may take you away from that feeling and that awareness, you, as you exist right now, no matter how you may judge it, are a perfect expression of divine love. You exist because love has existed, and you exist to come to understand and come to own your understanding of the expression of love that you are. That really is at the core of all spiritual teachings. And that really is the highest intent of what it is all of us are here to do, to embody love more and more as we navigate through this lifetime. I do think the fact that you're here means that you have a lot more to do in this lifetime. And if you can embrace it with some curiosity, some excitement, but also some belief in the unique fire within you, even if you don't always feel it, well, chances are you give it that much more opportunity to burn bright and for you to shine. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys. And to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. Thank you. And if you'd like to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you can get expanded exclusive video scopes each and every week for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month with choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there. Synchronicity University presents the one and only living legend in astrology, Michael Lutin. Michael Lutin is coming to Synchronicity University for this very rare event, which is a 5-week course on horoscope analysis. Here, Michael Lutin is going to teach you his very best, and that class starts in a week, and there are just a few days left to choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class to learn from the one and only Michael Lutin. So this is rare on so many levels to have this opportunity to get a 5-week course with Michael Lutin and to do it at this rate. Choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class. Well, I've been telling my students, if you're going to take just one course this year with any astrologer, period, and certainly at Synchronicity University, make it this course, make it Michael Lutin. This is a rare opportunity to learn from one of our living legends. And if you sign up before the end of the month, which is just this week, the month will end, well, you can choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class. So I hope that you'll check him out. Michael Lutin, the one and only Michael Lutin, coming to Synchronicity University. Classes start in a week. Link is in the description below. Synchronicity University presents the Spring Session 2022. Classes with me are coming up this spring that I'm really excited to tell you about, and we are going to be learning a whole lot. Classes in some ways are going to continue on previous classes, but also stuff that you can take brand new as standalones. Lilith in Synastry, Black Moon Lilith in Synastry. I'm sure that's going to be a very popular class. I look forward to talking to you about that. We are going to look at the 12th house in astrology, more on the ascendant in astrology, the sun in astrology as well, more about Vesta. We're going to be looking at parent-child synastry and a whole lot more. So I hope that you will check that out. Style, fashion, you know I love that stuff too. So we are going to have a lot of fun this spring. Classes are kicking up again in the middle of April, and you can choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class to learn from me for just a couple more weeks. You can choose your tuition rate, and that is at synchronicityuniversity.com. Link is in the description below. Best-selling author Melissa Sanova is back by popular demand at Synchronicity University. I just feel so grateful, so excited to have her back. She is such a big dog in the world of magic and of tarot, and she's going to be teaching a class, 5-week course based on her book, Kitchen Table Magic. And so this is a Magic 101 course. If you have wanted to learn how to practice magic, spells, how to understand magical energy, how to put your intentions out there, and so much more, taught as only Melissa Sanova can teach, well, this is your opportunity to sign up for as low as just $5 a class, an unheard of rate to learn from the likes of this very brilliant teacher. I love hanging out with her. I love talking to her. She's got 7 planets in Sag. And so together we get salty and we have a lot of fun. But of course, this is going to be her class. And I had a chance to sit in on the previous classes she taught based on her book, Kitchen Table Tarot. And I saw how interactive it was, how much the students got out of it. And even before her course ended, students were reaching out to us at Synchronicity University and saying, bring Melissa back, please bring Melissa back. And so here she is, she's back. As per request of Synchronicity University students, it is magic, kitchen table magic, taught by Melissa Sanova. Choose your tuition rate is on now to the end of April, as low as just $5 a class for this 5-week course at synchronicityuniversity.com. Link is in the description below. So I believe I mentioned while I was recording the sounds of the city. I also wanted to mention I've had incredible adventures so far in my journey here in Peru. And I have been sharing those adventures on my Instagram, on my Facebook. Thank you so much to everybody who's been interacting with them. I want to give a special shout out to a friend and fan and superstar and student, Peg. Now, it's interesting, Peg has now become a very dear friend because I was in one of my classes and I was saying I was going to be in Peru. And she said, "Hey, I'd like to meet you there." And I said, "Come on, let's do it." And she actually showed up and we actually went to Machu Picchu together. And so I wanted to share this incredible person with you. She has so much wisdom, so much love. And it's just been such a wonderful affirmation of how much love there is in the world. So I've loved getting to know her and continuing to get to know friends and fans and superstars and students. I've got another meeting coming up that I'll probably tell you about next week as well. And so thank you. Thank you to everybody out there, wherever you are in the world. If I'm there, I would love to meet you for a hug. I will be here in Cusco for about another week, and then I'll be heading to Ecuador, to Quito for about a week. And then I'll head to Costa Rica, to San Jose for a few days before heading back to Canada. And so if you are in any of those places, please reach out. Would love to meet you for a hug and for a moment, wherever it is that you might be. And again, wherever it is that I might be, we can meet. I also know that there are many friends and fans and superstars and students out there that I might never get to meet in person. Please know how much that love means to me, how much I feel it, how impressed I am by each of you that I get to learn about. And that lesson really has been brought home as of late. So thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for seeing me as some part of your spiritual journey. Let me also add Machu Picchu, right? There's a reason that it is one of the new seven wonders of the world. There's a reason that so many people talk about how powerful it is. You really can feel the sense of spiritual power and spiritual cleansing of the mountains. And you truly get a depth of understanding, or at least I did, a depth of understanding of how powerful the earth is and how deeply connected we truly are to the earth. We come from the earth and we return to the earth, as many spiritual traditions teach us. It is an experience that I am still sitting with, still learning through, and still being redefined by. So I wanted to take a moment to thank the mountains themselves for the ways in which I feel a little bit more healed, a little bit more blessed, and more grateful for having the life that I do and the opportunity that I do to remind each and every one of you out there and to affirm love and wisdom in the world, and to remind you of the love and wisdom and the expression of love and wisdom that you are as well. And thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for helping me to feel at home wherever I go. Thank you for being a part of me staying connected to purpose wherever I go in the world as well. In all the different ways in which you bless my life. I'm very, very aware of how blessed I am and how it is that I get to live my life on my terms, and trusting myself and my purpose. And it's you as my friend, my fan, my superstars, my students, my viewers. It's you that make that possible for me. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Thank you. And thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. Welcome to the exciting rebirth of Superstar, featuring choose your membership rate as low as just $3 a month. At Superstar, you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week, unlimited access to special horoscopes, class passes for Synchronicity University, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there.